Welcome back to Wine Time. I'm your host on LTV, Erin Swain, Sommelier in the Hamptons, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about California wines before we get to speak with Scot and Denise from Trioni in California. So with that being said, I will be talking about 3 wines from California. I'm going to start with Chardonnay, and then we're going to move on to a Rosé, and then a Cabernet. So taste along with me if you haven't, but again, on today's episode, we really just want everyone to start learning more about wine and speaking more like a sommelier. So I'll start going over more wine vocabulary words and help you build your wine education. So wine number 1, I'm going to start with our Chardonnay. I have a Bariq Cellars. This is a Chardonnay coming out of Anderson Valley. And I'm gonna go ahead and pour a little Scotia Chardonnay in my glass. If you notice, I only did about an ounce and a half, because we are all gonna work on our wine swirl. Now I had some Rosé in that one, so I'm gonna go get rid of that and pour a new little Scotia so it's actually all white. Beautiful. So this is a 2017. I will talk a little bit about color on white wine because I have it here. So what's really interesting and fascinating about white wine is that white wine gets darker with age and red wine gets lighter with age. So when you see sommeliers take their wine and we tilt it, first of all, I'm not a wine snob, but I do always look down on wine at one point, which is the appearance of wine. I will tilt the wine and look over something in writing, and I will look down on the wine. And I'm just tilting it over to the side so I can see the difference from core to rim. If you aren't familiar with this, picture cracking an egg in a glass. When you tilt it to the side, you're gonna be looking down, and the core is gonna be the yolk of the egg, and then the rim is gonna be the white. And so when you look at the color differentiation from core to rim, that's when you're gonna find out if the wine has age. Now this wine, like I said, is a 2017, so we're in 2021. This wine has a little age on it, and look at that color. For a Chardonnay, that is a little bit darker. It's not, if this was a current release, it would be a lot clearer, paler, and straw color. So I look down, I see that, and I see the differentiation, and then I see a little bit of a wide, watery rim, which is gonna be indicative of acid, but now I'm gonna work on my wine swirl. So as I work on my wine swirl, I am doing this beautiful swirl. When I'm doing this, I am allowing and introducing oxygen to let the wine become more expressive and open up. And that's gonna open up the nose. So as I smell, yes, I am getting a beautiful nose. Lots of fun aromas and bouquets. We talked about that. I'm getting some green papaya. I'm getting tropical fruit. So I'm getting a little bit of underripe pineapple. And then of course, that Chardonnay. I'm getting wonderful expressions of hints of oak. It's really mild and subtle notes of vanilla, cream, butterscotch, caramel. This one is really subdued. This wine is more reminiscent of something in northern Burgundy, not quite as far north as Chablis, but something that would be not heavily oaked. It's not going to be reminiscent of Meursault. But this wine has seen a little bit of oak, and it's undergone malolactic, but not a lot. It's not going to be my big butter oak bomb that I particularly love. Really, really nice, and a lot of green apple. When I get green apple, I think of malic acid. My favorite thing to talk about with Chardonnays in general is our malolactic fermentation. This wine has definitely undergone a little bit of malolactic fermentation. It's not over the top. It's really, really beautiful. This wine, let's talk about food. This wine would go amazing with shellfish, with any light white fish, but it can also withstand a little bit of substance or some kind of sauce that you make with butter. So if we were doing a cream sauce, a fettuccine alfredo, shrimp scampi, something with a little capers, I think this Chardonnay would hold up really well. And it's a really just nice expression of Chardonnay without being over the top. Yep, that is a really, really nice expression of Chardonnay. So wine number 2 today that we're going to be doing is, I have this Cal Star Cellars, and it's a rosé. The rosé is being made out of Pinot Meunier. So pour, again, just an ounce or 2 of Pinot Meunier. We're on our rosé conversation before we talk to our guests from California. But again, a California wine, the grape is Pinot Meunier. Pinot Meunier is a little bit more of an obscure variety. You might not be familiar with it, but when I tell you where it's most notable and known for, you're gonna say, oh wow, I do know about that region, which is Champagne. And in Champagne, there's 3 grapes: Chardonnay, which we just tasted, Pinot Noir, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, and then Pinot Meunier. So Pinot Meunier is a cousin of Pinot Noir, and it's a light, thin-skinned grape that actually imparts a lot of color. So if you look at this beautiful color, we're getting actually a lot more of a rich, dark color for this rosé. And rosés can take on many different colors. I have a rosé barometer here, so I've got light rosés all the way up to really, really dense, darker rosés. So the rosé will depend on the grape variety that you're using. So when we make rosé wines, I think we did discuss this in one of the previous rosé episodes, but rosé wines are coming from red-skinned grapes. So you can make any rosé out of a red-skinned grape or dark-skinned grape. Fun fact, you can make rosé wines out of Pinot Grigio. I know, Pinot Grigio is a well-known white wine from Italy. However, Grigio means gray, and Pinot Grigio grapes are gray-skinned. So if you impart and keep the skin contact on with the juice, you're going to be getting pink juice. So you can, in fact, make pink wine, rosé wine, out of Pinot Grigio. And most notable, probably out of Napa Valley. They grow Pinot Gris. Pinot Gris and Pinot Grigio are synonymous. It's the same exact grape. And we'll talk about our fruits and non-fruits, and then do a little food pairing with this before moving on to wine number 3. Wow, I'm getting florality. My favorite thing to get on the nose. The flowers I'm getting is roses. So I'm getting like a red floral and hints of violets. I'm getting some purple flowers, maybe almost even a little lavender. Wow, on the palate. And to confirm, this wine has beautiful acidity. The acidity is, you get that in the sides of the mouth, so you'll get like biting into a lemon or a green apple. Your mouth will water on the sides, your taste buds might lift up a little bit. That's the perception of acid. This wine has really high acid. It has beautiful minerality. My non-fruit in this wine is going to be like a whetstone. I already said the flowers. And then my fruits are going to be like an underripe strawberry. I'm getting a lot of red fruits, but they're not heavily ripe. This is an underripe red fruit that I'm getting, but it's really, really beautiful. And I want to talk a little bit about what food I would pair with rosé, because I think people always forget about rosé in the progression. So one of my favorite things to pair rosé with is cured meats. So whether you're making a charcuterie board or you're ordering a beautiful beef carpaccio, putting rosé in the middle of a pairing for dinner is fantastic. The red fruits are gonna have enough substance to complement the red meat, but usually this red meat is cured. It's not gonna be, well, unless you're having a really high fat content, but a lot of these thin, like prosciuttos, they'll be sort of light, and they'll need something crisp, and they'll need acidity cut through it. So rosé wines are a beautiful accoutrement to any of your charcuterie boards, any kind of cured meats. I would highly recommend, if you haven't tried it, definitely try rosé wines with those cured meats. And then also try cooking with rosé. So I've recently started cooking, instead of beurre blancs, I cook beurre rosés. So I'll dice up shallots, I'll saute them in butter. Once they get cooked into a beautiful translucent color, I will pour a half bottle of rosé and then turn the heat on low and just let that reduce. Sometimes I'll throw in some thyme or some kind of herb. Let that reduce. The color of that sauce is going to be a beautiful pink color, and it is gorgeous, especially with light seafood. My favorite is seared scallops, but it would go great with any kind of light white fish. So even shrimp, this is a beautiful wine to try. It's delicate enough that I think rosé is the perfect pairing with it. So our California rosé made out of Pinot Meunier. And we're gonna move on to wine number 3 before we talk to our next guest. Now I'm gonna use my fancy apparatus called a Coravin. The Coravin is a great gift to give your favorite wine lover. It's a fancy wine opener. So I think this retails for around $500. This is the Model 2 and it's in candy apple red. I'm not sure if I used it on the show yet, but a surgeon invented this apparatus because they wanted to taste their wines without uncorking. So how do they do that is they actually put a needle through here. So I'm going to put a needle through the cork, and then there's argon gas. The cartridge just looks like this, and it's a Coravin cartridge. It goes right in here, and once you break the capsule, that's what is going to push the liquid out. So I will demonstrate here. I put the Coravin right on top of my bottle of wine, and then I push the needle in through, and I'll bring my wine forward. See that? Bubbles right out perfectly. And there you go. I just opened this lovely bottle of Cabernet without ever uncorking it. So wine number 3, we are going to taste a Cabernet Sauvignon, which is a Bordeaux variety out of Napa Valley. And we're gonna do our same exercise. We'll swirl, we're aerating the wine, and we will do a fruit and non-fruit. Oh man, that nose is beautiful. I'm gonna let it open up for a second and give it a minute to breathe. So when I swirl this wine, I am introducing oxygen, I'm allowing the wine to aerate, I'm allowing it to breathe. I'm pretty much doing what a decanter would do, except just in a little bit in the glass. So there it is. All right, on the nose. With red wines, I want everyone to remember to think about blue fruits, black fruits, and red fruits. So when you're picking out your fruit identifiers in the wine, this one, I'm gonna steer clear of the red fruits. I'm not really getting as many of those. I'm getting more of the darker fruits. So I'm getting immediately plum, blackberry, black cherry, and then my non-fruits, vanilla, leather, some kinds of cedar and spice. This is a really, really beautiful. I'm almost getting hints of eucalyptus too. Really, really cool notes on this wine. This wine is very, very expressive, and I'm gonna taste it and tell you what food would go with this. All right, I got a lot more tannins on the palate. So we have talked about tannins, and tannins are a component of wine. Tannins help you pair wine with foods so that they can help cut through some of the fat. So I would definitely pair this with more of a gamey meat. I would pair this with duck, and I would pair this with steak, especially a steak like a ribeye that's marbled with fat. The tannins on this Cabernet will definitely cut through that and be very complementary to that fat component. And it's a really, really beautiful wine. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Cabernet, I think red wines in general, just on the nose, I just love the smell. I love all of the spice notes that I'm getting. Really, really beautiful. So today's episode is California. I kind of flew through a little bit of red, white, and rosé because I really want to hear what our guests today, which is Denise and Scot from Trioni Vineyards, have to say about their journey in the wine world. So let's see what they have to say. Check it out. All right, hey everyone. Today on One Time, we have a very, very, very special treat. We have 2 people from Trioni Vineyards. We have both the winemaker and the director of sales and marketing. So we have Scot and Denise here today. Welcome, guys.
Thank
Hello.
you. Hi.
So I'm just going to start off and ask you a couple of questions. I'm going to start with Denise. Denise, was it hard to leave the banking world for the world of wine?
No. Next question.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was really easy, actually. I think banking was a good kind of foundation and jumping off point out of college, not totally knowing what I was going to do. My family at that point, we were just growers, and they're really, I had a business background, but didn't have, a viticulture background or a grape or, farming background in agriculture. So I went into banking not really having a place at the vineyards and not really having an interest in the growing specifically, but definitely always having an interest in the wine business and kind of needling my dad and my uncle for an opportunity there, especially as my banking career went on. And I got, the culture of banking and putting on my nylons every day. I was like, oh my gosh, when do I get to be done with this? So it was a good background and a really great foundation, but no, not hard at all. I was really eager to make the jump and then get some training. I had to kind of educate myself and get training, in the world of wine before I could even consider, partnering with Scot and opening a winery.
So you don't want to put the age in your office?
No, okay. No, I don't.
So Scot, what sparked your interest in becoming a winemaker?
Oh, me? Well, the story is I was going to the JC, which is the junior college here in Santa Rosa, and they have a program in enology and viticulture. And that's really where it started. I always say it was a girl because it was, at the time, there was a girlfriend of mine and we would have wine at lunch, and, it was the days of the Gewürztraminer, and it was a fun wine to say and drink. And so I fell in love with one and fell out of love with the girl, and I'm still in love with wine. So that's how it started.
It's always a love story, isn't it? So Denise, what is your philosophy on hospitality that you foster in your team there at the vineyard?
Well, I think it comes down to the feeling that people get from my family. And so this has nothing to do with the hospitality that we offer in the tasting room, but I think what people would say after meeting myself or my dad or my grandfather was just this kind of open-armed approachability. And, what I say now is that, people come in for the wine and they return for the hospitality, right? Because they already know Scot makes great wine. They already know, and they've been referred to us, or they, because they love our wine. But what keeps them coming back is this kind of familial relationship that they end up having with the staff, or just the fact that, Scot's here and I'm here and my kids might be here and the dogs might be here, and my husband's our vineyard manager. He might be here. He might be sitting next to the bar next to my dad.
It's rare. Can I interrupt? It's rare that at a winery that you'll meet the owners, the family, and here, by any time anybody comes in, you're going to probably meet one of the family members, and it's a rare opportunity here, and people love that. They really do.
That is very cool. Scot, who was your wine mentor, and what was the most valuable lesson that they instilled on you?
Well, I have to say I worked with so many renowned people in the industry here in Sonoma County, but I got to say the person that's most influential on me has been Mary Edwards. I worked with her prior to Trione at Pellegrini Winery for 3 years, and then she went out and built her own facility. But from her, I honestly, if you pay attention to the little details, the big ones kind of just fall into place. And I think from her, that's what I've learned, and that's the one that sticks with me. And I feel she's still a friend of mine, and I still see her. And so yeah, she's the one I've learned the most from.
Cool. So Denise, how did you get involved and earn a VP position at the Alexander Valley Wine Growers Association?
We had we had somebody that was on staff at the vineyard office, and he was on that board, and he was looking for somebody to kind of take over his position. I think he had kind of been nominated into it as a grower, and when we opened the winery, he said, this would be a really great kind of group for you to have as a group of peers, and he kind of recommended me for the position. And now I've been doing it for probably 12 years. And I've been vice president, and now I'm like all-time secretary.
They can't get rid of you. Well, they don't want to get rid of you.
And it's like I keep pushing off the vice president, which then is expected to go into presidency. I'm like, I'll be all-time secretary. But I love it. You know, the group of people that have circulated through the board during my terms are exceptional people, and I've learned so much from them. And it's just great to have that kind of sounding board with other people that are, you know, heads of either, you know, small vineyards, large wineries, you know, it's a full spectrum, and it's a really great group of peers.
And I'm going to interject again, because Denise was instrumental in developing our Cab Academy program with the Alexander Valley wine growers. And it's been a great, well, instead of COVID, it's been a great platform for Alexander Valley.
Yeah.
And that's the growers that had put that together.
Yeah.
We've been a part of it every year, and it's been, you know, and Denise has been instrumental, like I said, in putting that together. And it's been great.
Cool. Scott, what are your favorite varieties to work with and grow, and why? That's
always one of those things, you know, it's like, what, you know, I only have one child, but, you know, if you have multiple children, it's like, which one's your favorite? But I'd have to say Pinot Noir, because of the challenge, I think, both in the industry and out in the vineyard and then in the cellar, you know, making, you know, world-class Pinot Noir, that's challenging. And I appreciate that. And I like it. And I like the wines that we're making here at Trioni. But the other wine that I absolutely am in love with is our Sauvignon Blanc from Russian River. I think that's, you know, that's the crown on our jewel here, or jewel in our crown. And I just love every year making that wine and how it turns out, and just the nuances and all of that. So both of those wines are my favorite.
All right. Denise, what is your favorite aspect of the Alexander Valley, and what makes it so special to you?
Well, I think it goes back to kind of our hospitality, you know, practices, but it is that feeling of like community and families and generations. That's a lot of that up here. I mean, besides the views and the wines, but it's just the approachability, right? I mean, you really can walk into not only our winery, but other neighboring wineries and, you know, meet the winemaker, meet the family members, and be greeted with open arms. You know, the taste room staff is going to remember your name. They're going to remember your preferences. And it's the wines, you know, it's really something to be be able to taste, you know, like the ageability.
And tradition too.
The tradition.
That's here. And
the ageability of the wines, you know, the Scots cabs just get better and better and better. And so that's always, you know, kind of a fun thing to compare. And having that connection with the association, I've gotten to know a lot of these other growers and family. And it is kind of tradition, but it's really farming based.
There's old families here that have been farming for generations, including the Trionis, but
Cool. And then Scott, what is your winemaking philosophy?
Oh God, I wrote it down somewhere. This is somewhere. It's a tattoo, but I can't show you. No, my philosophy is, it's actually simple. It's probably similar to many winemakers, but I think the winemaking is guided by nature. And so the hand of the winemaker should be relatively soft. You know, you do the right things in the vineyard, you bring in the fruit the right time, you do the right things. I mean, I don't want to oversimplify it, but I think the less intrusive you are to the wine, the better the end product will be. And also that the wine should be good at every stage of its life, from the fruit, tasting the fruit out in the vineyard, to tasting the juice when it gets into the winery, and then all the way through its development. It shouldn't go through an odd stage to me. It always should taste good, but for its age. And I think that's my philosophy, I guess. If that's a philosophy, it's a light hand and do with what nature guides you.
Well, awesome. Yes, that sounds good. I cannot wait to get out to California after this whole pandemic is over, and I will definitely be visiting the family and you too, and I look forward to meeting you in person. Thank you very much for being on Wine Time today, and we can't wait to share some wine with you.
All right.
Cheers. Thank you. Cheers. Come visit us.
And scene. My light just fell over. I'm like, okay, but that won't be on video because you guys were talking.
We were talking, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I've learned from this Zoom thing. Like in the studio when you're producing, like if you make a mistake, they don't edit anything because it's on public access. So they just you have to just roll through it, and you're just like in the kitchen by yourself. Like, okay. But season 2 is really shaping up. You guys are my 3rd interview. I did Wine Spectator's James Molesworth. And that was an in-person interview. He was here in Montauk. And then I did Kevin Zraeli. So that was an incredible one. Then you two. And then I'm going to be talking to some women entrepreneurs and some people up here on the North Fork of Long Island. So yeah, the roster continues of kick-ass wine people. So thank you for being here.
Well, great.
Awesome.
Glad to be part of it.
Yeah, thank you. That was easy.
Well, I think it helps when I send the questions ahead of time. So
Sure.
What I'm going to say. But thank you guys so much for your time. I will send you the finished product when it is out, and look forward to say. I used to pour your wines at Gurney's here in the Hamptons. Your Sauvignon Blanc. Your Sauvignon Blanc was on our list for $95 back in.
Wow.
Yep. That was like the least expensive wine on the list, so it was like very easy just
pour it.
No, Blanc. Yeah. Very easy recommendation. But
Cool.
yeah. All right, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye.